and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our Game Week 17 episode of the 100 Experts, where we're going to have a look at the data from 100 top FPL managers and seeing who they're transferring in, who they're captaining, to see if we can work out any trends. And there's a few chips being thrown about as well. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, drop a like. Really appreciate the support on this series, and do subscribe if you want more FPL content in your faces. So first of all, a big thank you to all of our FPL experts, pundits and content creators that helped us out with their data this week. Absolute legends as always, helping us all to improve our game. So yeah, real big shout out to these guys. And let me tell you, there's a lot going on this week, which I'm going to share with you. It's a crazy game week, it really is. So hopefully they can give us some insight. So, of our 100 expert managers, 47% are making one transfer this week, which isn't that much until you realise 36% are making two transfers. That is huge. We've got a lot of people making multiple transfers, and we also got 7% making three transfers this week. And when you consider that last game week, a lot of our expert managers were not rolling their transfers, it means the vast majority are actually taking -4s, -8s to improve their FPL team this week. So guys, do not be afraid of taking those hits this week. You are not going to be alone. You are going to be part of the expert crowd by taking these hits, particularly if you do have a lot of problems in your teams. You are not alone. Please don't think that you are in big trouble and you're alone in having big trouble. When everyone's in the same boat, no one's really in big trouble. So let's try and sort this situation out together. We have even got 1% of our experts, so just one person, using their free hit this week. Not a wild card, a free hit to try and navigate out of the problem, because they do have suspended players and injured players that they just want to deal with just for this one game week and hopefully continue the rest of their season on as usual. But a 1%er, although there is going to be situations where this does apply to certain managers that free hit is a good option, 1% is not a trend. So that doesn't mean really that we need to be thinking about this too much, but just wanted to throw that one out there. We have got 9% of our managers not making a transfer this week at all, but I should clarify before we go any further, a lot of our top managers are waiting for further information on Erling Haaland before locking in their transfer moves, and I've tried to create a bit of a balanced kind of set of data today involving those who are, going to be making moves with Haaland in mind and those who will be doing moves without Haaland in mind. So we're going to try and find a bit of a balance today. Some people are going to be keeping him regardless. Some people have already removed him. There's a big variation right now this week in terms of who is doing what with regards to Haaland. So we can try and keep things fairly balanced in terms of the best solutions for that. So looking at the overall data in the world, the most popular Game Week 17 transfers are Solanke. 360,000 transfers in for him already. That is a huge number at this stage of the season. It's very rare we see so many transfers being made this early. So it's a big week for transfers this week. A huge week for transfers. And it seems like Solanke and maybe Son as well there have been kind of settled as the big transfer targets in the world of FPL. Of course, we've got Pedro Porro, Watkins and Gordon also showing some substantial numbers there among the overall player base. But what we're really interested in is what our experts are doing. These seem to be popular moves among the overall player base, but do our experts agree on any of these picks? And actually, for a lot of the top ones, they really do. So the top four, Solanke, Son, Pedro Porro and Watkins, also heavily transferred in by our experts, as well as Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's also being shown a little bit of love. For the other players on this list, well, there's not really too much interest in any of them. Certainly not enough to create any strong trends, but there are some players on this list that none of our experts are interested in at all. So maybe they are traps, maybe they are players we want to avoid, considering so many of our experts are making transfers, but none of them are interested in these players. And the players are Mykolenko and Julian Alvarez. Mykolenko, of course, does have some tough fixtures coming up. You can understand why Everton aren't guaranteed clean sheets for every single game week in future weeks. Just difficult fixtures in general. I don't actually think Mykolenko is such a bad pick, but Julian Alvarez, that one I can definitely understand. I mean, particularly if you're removing Haaland and replacing him with Alvarez. I mean, really, Haaland being sold is an opportunity for Game Week 18 when the Man City players blank anyway. So it's actually an opportunity to remove Man City players from your team. We've already done the same thing with Mbermo last game week. It's time to remove those Man City players, not bring them in. So you can tell that the experts, they're not really going to be looking to bring in Julian Alvarez this week because, yeah, it just kind of, it keeps the problem that actually an injured Haaland might actually solve. The blessing in disguise would actually be removed entirely. So, yeah, no one really interested in him. So who are our experts transferring out? Well, no surprise to see the headline man of the week, Erling Haaland. Actually, if I looked at the real numbers, the people considering selling Haaland are far, far higher than this, but a lot of our experts gave me multiple plans depending on the injury situation, and I tried to create a bit of a balance, as I said. But yeah, Haaland is still, regardless, the most popular transfer out, and I think a lot of our experts have already made this move already. Some are waiting for more information, and I probably would advise, as long as you guys aren't going to be priced out of any moves, you know, if money is not really an issue, then maybe it is worth actually holding on to Haaland until we can get some more information over the next 2 days, but there's no guarantee of that anyway. So yeah, particularly if you can make a move to some of the better strikers in the game right now, it might not even be such a bad thing, even if Haaland is playing this week against Crystal Palace, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on and not rush into if you're not comfortable with it. But at the same time, he is still going to be a player who is removed. He's blanking in game week 18 anyway. You know, there's a lot of upside into removing Haaland into your team, and try and make sure that you do have money to bring him back soon, because I don't think it's going to be a long-term injury for Haaland, even if he is out for this game week. We've also got some other players like Cash. He is being removed. We're seeing him being removed from our expert teams every single week. He's one of the players who has been heavily removed. So yeah, get that done if you have a free transfer to use on that one. Reece James is now going to be out for a few months, unfortunately for him. He just cannot catch a break, but those going for Reece James as a new defender in their team, trying to catch the upside, have unfortunately fallen short there and are now choosing to remove him. Darwin Nunez, a lot of frustration around him recently, so a lot of our expert managers who had him in their team are choosing to remove him. Trippier with his suspension, you can understand why he's being removed. And then we just got some various other players. Martinelli not performing, Archer, maybe a change in structure there. Gahey with the bad fixtures for Crystal Palace, and Burmo injured, Mitchell injured. So a lot of the transfers that we are seeing this week are due to injuries and suspensions. So maybe that is where we need to focus our attention this game week. Other transfers are probably going to be luxury, particularly if you're looking at taking -4s, -8s. I would really only be thinking about doing that when we're dealing with a situation with a lot of players being injured and suspended. Otherwise, maybe you can get away without taking a hit this week. The transfers in, well, it's Solanke again, the most popular pick. Everyone seems to agree that this guy is on fire. You'll see in yesterday's video where we looked at Solanke in a little bit more detail that his numbers really are phenomenal right now. His expected goal numbers and his goal numbers in fairness are really, really top of the table at the moment. And he's on penalties as well for Bournemouth. If they can manage to get a penalty at some point in the next 3 years, it's been so long since they've had a penalty, of course. But yeah, Solanke looking really good. The real key to the attack for Bournemouth, in a Bournemouth team that is scoring a lot of goals and has great fixtures coming up. So there is no problem going for this 6.6 million man. Great value for money, and is probably the best value for money forward in the game right now. So very nice transfer, and our experts seem to agree that he is the #1 transfer target of the week. Maybe a little bit surprising to see him way out in front, but he is. Pedro Porro is coming in second here. 31 transfers in for him. That's pretty significant numbers as well, to be fair. So Pedro Porro, the #1 defensive transfer target, and definitely if you're happy with your forward situation or you don't want to sell Erling Haaland, you need a new defender in your team, Pedro Porro is going to be the answer for you. After that, we've got Watkins, an alternative to Solanke. If you don't have Watkins in your team right now, maybe he's going to be an option to you. Son, yeah, this is super interesting. So it seems like the few experts who didn't have Heung-min Son in their FPL teams are now clamoring to get him back into their teams. They really want to get Son back into their FPL teams, with a lot of transfers seeing Son come in. Of course, most of our experts will already have Son, but for the few that didn't, well, now it's the time to get him back into the team, and that's going to be a big priority transfer this week. And a few transfers in for Colwill, Palmer, and Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. They're the only other players really that show any trends. We've got a few people transferred in by 1, 2, 3 of our experts, but the 4 transfers or more is where I'm looking at as my big trends this week, because there is so many transfers going around at the moment. So yeah, if you fancy a little go on one of them, hey, why not? But Solanke and Porro are the 2 big transfer targets for Game Week 17, according to our experts. Let's suggest some transfers. Okay, so let's start off with Erling Haaland. If you are going to remove him from your team, then there's 2 options for you, and it's Solanke and Watkins. These are the standout options by far. There's very little interest in any other forward in the entirety of FPL. I think there was 1 other forward being transferred in by our experts, and I believe that was Callum Wilson with 1 transfer in. There might have been another one here or there, but really no other trends there. So all of the trends, all of the data is pointing towards Solanke and Watkins as the 2 forwards to get. If you've already got Watkins, you get Solanke. If you don't have have Watkins, at that point you maybe consider going for Watkins ahead of Solanke. But the data is still suggesting, and particularly when we consider value for money, that Solanke is going to be a phenomenal pick. I actually think Solanke could potentially match Watkins' points at a cheaper price, but Watkins is in general a safer pick to have in your FPL team. And if you don't fancy Darwin in your team anymore, you could consider moving him on as well. Darwin to Solanke is also a reasonably popular transfer as well. So if you don't want to remove Haaland, or you don't have Haaland for whatever reason, moving Darwin instead to Solanke could be your answer if you don't fancy him in the Manchester United game. Here are some other suggestions. So first of all, Matty Cash to Pedro Porro. We see this transfer being made pretty regularly every week for the last few game weeks. This is just a popular transfer in general from our experts. Of course, last week it was Cash at 4.9 and Porro at 5.3. The divide between these two players' price is growing. So if you do want to make this move, maybe now is the time to do it before these two players grow too far apart in price and you're priced out, unfortunately. If you've got Reece James, he's going to be out for so long. It's a pretty straightforward move to move him to Pedro Porro. Wouldn't even really think about that move. If you have Reece James, moving him to Pedro Porro is going to massively improve your team and include a playing player and remove a non-playing player due to that injury. And finally, Martinelli was the most popular transferred out midfielder, but actually there's a variety of different midfielders moving on to Son. But we'll put Martinelli down for Son here if you do have that kind of move in mind, if you like. But yeah, it really is any midfielder you have right now, particularly if you're freeing up a little bit of budget by selling Haaland. Maybe that is going to give you an opportunity to bring Heung-min Son back into your team. So another pretty important suggested transfer for you based on the data. And finally, a look at the Game Week 17 captain picks, and we have got a big standout player, and that's going to be Mo Salah at home against Manchester United. Of course, Manchester United dealing with injury problems with Maguire and Shaw recently injured, and, you know, United have just not looked good defensively at all recently. I don't want to keep saying it because I know the Manchester United fans in the comments just don't like me saying this, but we've got to try and think objectively here in FPL, and Liverpool and Salah are in great form, great attacking form, and Manchester United are just not in great defensive form right now. So we have here a real opportunity. But as we often see, when a big player like Salah or Haaland is playing against Manchester United, who do struggle against the top teams, people are still a little bit hesitant about doing this captaincy decision. They're a little bit hesitant about captaining players against United. I'm not totally surprised. Manchester United has a huge fan base in the world of FPL, so I can understand why a few of you might be put off or just morally objecting to captaining a player against your team. That's fair enough if that's the way you want to play FPL, of course. There are some other options, but they are so divided and so split up that there really isn't any other strong trends aside from Salah, which does again suggest to me that Salah is the clear best captain pick for this game week. We've got 5% on Solanke against Luton Town. I mean, captaining a player who's about to play Luton is always an idea. Erling Haaland at 3% here. A few people still really hoping that they can captain Haaland against Crystal Palace, which is interesting to say the least. But I mean, with all of these videos with the 100 experts, with a player like Erling Haaland, he could have like one leg missing and he'd still be captained by at least one of our experts. But I guess that's what the vice captain is there for, right? 3% on Heung-min Son as well. The first kickoff against Nottingham Forest. We've got 2% on Sterling versus Sheffield United, and Nicholas Jackson is our 1%er for today. And I know that sounds pretty ridiculous, pretty stupid to captain Nicholas Jackson against Sheffield United, but I actually don't think this is as bad as it might look on initial inspection. Captaining players against Sheffield United is never really a bad idea, and I think Jackson will start after Broja's performance last game week. Don't think Jackson and Nkunku will be back quite yet, so I do expect Jackson to start against Sheffield United. So yeah, I think that's actually a pretty interesting captaincy decision, if nothing else. So yeah, Sterling or Jackson against Sheffield United. There are worse ideas in the world, I suppose. But it's all about Salah, really, so much so that we have actually got one person using their triple captain. One of our experts is actually using their triple captain. I can't quite believe it. They're not saving it for the double game week. They're going in now. Fair enough. Who am I to say that's a bad idea? But at 1% on that triple captain chip, we have to say it's not a trend. It's not a trend. One person is not a trend, so we shouldn't take that into consideration when making our own decisions too much. But again, I didn't want to hide this information for you because this series is all about being open and seeing what the top managers are up to without putting any bias on it. So yeah, there you go. One person triple captain in Salah against Manchester United. They're either a big Liverpool fan or really I've been disappointed with the way Manchester United have been playing recently. But Salah at home, Man United against a big team. We've seen what's happened earlier on in the season with Haaland against Manchester United. Could it happen again? Hey, if it does, maybe that could come off. But certainly like it as a captain. Not so sure about the triple captain, right? Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure you do drop a like. Really helps out the channel. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well. And let me know what you're thinking in terms of captaincy as well. And what hit are you going to be taking? I'd love to know. Are you guys thinking about taking -4s, -8s? Anyone out there taking a -12? It would be good to hear from you guys. Of course, if you want to check out another video, feel free to do so right here. But aside from that, I will see you on tomorrow's video. And I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.